Well, hello everybody. Hello to SumOne. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to
Hello.
our episode, our new episode called Everything
And nothing.
and Nothing.
With your host, SumOne.
And Anezka. Hi. Hope you guys had a good couple weeks. Mine's been a little wild ride, but I'm not going there today. We're going to talk about other things.
I like
We're
it.
talking about other things
I don't even know
today.
what our topics are going to be yet. It's going to be a surprise to me, which is
know.
always nice.
Totally going to be a surprise to me.
One thing I'm noticing is that
Yeah.
my levels are a lot higher than yours. So let me change something.
Let's pause.
Yep.
All right, we're going to take a pause. We'll be right back. Technical difficulties.
I'm just too loud. Too loud of a human being with no built-in library voice. It's terrible.
I'm glad you're doing that stuff. It's all, yeah,
Mumbo jumbo
it's
to
all
the
mumbo
muggles of
jumbo.
the world.
yeah,
Yep.
that stuff, that technical stuff.
Well, it's been a good week for me. Here we are again.
Yeah,
It's always a pleasure to
sit and
talk to you. Yep.
I know.
I mean,
I look forward to
honestly,
it.
like, we've always like kind of communicated pretty well as a family.
Mm-hmm.
But something about sitting down in front of a microphone intentionally,
Mm-hmm.
I got to be honest. I think in the last 5 months or however long it's been, I'd say our communication has improved.
Absolutely.
Overall.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Clarity. And it's funny because, like I said in the beginning, like we're doing this. I'm doing this for myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, well, I'll talk about that in a second. But I am doing it for myself, and there's a lot of takeaway for me. Like when we're sharing ideas and stuff, I really implemented. Like the last episode we did about depression and overwhelm. I had some really hard times, and I reached out to people. I
Good.
took my own advice, like we planted those seeds. And so it's really, it's helpful for me.
It's been good for me as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we hope that, you get something out of it too, but
Yep.
regardless, we'll probably keep doing it as long as we're enjoying it.
That's really it. Do what you love, and sometimes do what you don't love to keep a roof over your head.
Oh, yeah, which brings us to the topic.
Oh, does it?
Yeah,
Okay,
maybe.
Okay.
So I think I'll start this week.
Yeah, please
I
go
have
ahead.
no idea what you're going to bring to the table, but I wanted to talk about creativity. And this is a really big topic. I mean, there's a lot of different ways, and there's a lot of things I would want to say about this, but I'm going to start with the more what I would call shadow side of creativity and how it relates to me and what I've been going through. And maybe you can find something in here that, speaks to you as well. But I would say that recently I've hit some really big roadblocks of how I think about creativity. Because being a feng shui consultant, I understand that, everything is made of energy, everything. And so in one way, we're always creating, creativity isn't, like this is kind of a new thought form for me. Like creativity, I always thought of as something you do from time to time, right?
Like a hobby.
Right, but
Yeah.
I'm understanding more that creativity is really like the backbone of life, and wanting to bring that expression. And I'll explain more about that later, maybe. But how it's been showing up for me negatively is that in the forms and the ways that I do want to create, I've been feeling a lot of shame and a lot of like just really like I get caught in these downward spiral pools. And let me kind of explain about that.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So I've always thought of myself as an author, a writer. I have written a couple books, but in September, but it's something that I've always struggled with. I've never feel happy to sit down and write. It's never like, oh, I hear authors who are like, I love to do this and I can't live without it. And I'm like, oh, me, I avoid it at all costs, but it's been a childhood dream. And I finally last September put it down because I recognized I just had such a toxic relationship with it. Like I was always like, this is crap, or, and this is the question that I want to bring is like the relevance of creativity. Because for me, I kind of got to this point, I was like, what the fuck is the point of creating all this stuff that nobody wants to listen to, or nobody wants to buy, or nobody is interested in it in any way, shape, or form? And I'm spending all this time, energy, and money, and for what? I mean, I like to paint. I have paintings in my closet that have been there for years. Nobody gives a shit about them. And they're really not, maybe good enough to sell anyway. But, or I like to do woodworking, and I make these things and I'm like, well, what do I do with this? Like, nobody really wants it. Or I've written tons of articles and special things, and I'm like, but there's I feel like sometimes there's where to put it. And I know I've heard, like, well, you just create art for yourself, and I'm like, yeah, I get that. And for me, there's something about the human experience of being able to share it and connect with somebody over something that you've created. It feels important to me to be seen and heard. And I think this is my big nemesis that I keep coming up against, is that, where's that fine line? Because I don't really feel like it's like I want to be famous, because I don't. Maybe in my earlier 20s, that was a big thing. But I really like my anonymity. I've matured. I'm not interested in that. I think more what I'm interested in is like, where do you find a way to connect or feel relevant with what you have divined in and share that with the world?
Well, validation is a bit of a currency, and putting in a bunch of work and effort in whatever you're working in, a thank you or somebody that partakes and recognizes the work that you've done goes a long ways. Somebody saying thank you during a hard work day, it goes a long way.
Yeah.
Somebody recognizing the work and effort you put in,
yeah.
it helps to elevate and push you to continue. And I could see how just having, a stack of, old paintings in my closet taking up all my space, it would, feel kind of like, why did I do that? But I think at our base, and you kind of mentioned this in different verbiage, we are creators.
Yes.
We are the creators
yes.
of our lives. And really the real tapestry we have is our life. And the paintbrush we have is the decisions that we make every day, every minute, via the diets we decide to eat every meal, or the people we decide to contact, or the conversations we have.
Right.
That creates us in our lives.
Yes.
So we're creating all the time. And then we have these other ideas of creation that we've designated as the arts: writing,
right.
painting,
music,
visual, audio, through the senses, we were able to communicate artistically. And what's the purpose of that? I mean, I'm a bit of a musician. I've dabbled in painting and drawing and stuff. And I don't know. I mean, it ultimately, when you do share it, being a closet musician in my own apartment, it's cool. It's nice to learn a guitar riff, but when you're on stage or in a circle of people all sharing and collabing together, it is a much richer experience. Yeah. And I see where you're coming from there.
Do you feel like it's important for you to be validated, seen, or heard for the things that you create? Or does it not matter to you?
It's a really nice boon. It's a really nice perk plus, but it's not necessary. It's
not necessary?
Well, if I'm just playing music in my apartment, obviously no. It's just I just like knowing that I've technically mastered, a certain guitar riff, or that I like knowing that because I put a couple scales together in my head on a violin, now I can create a new piece of music.
Yeah.
And it's super cool when you take it out and share it, but there's reward for myself just in having learned connected a new neuronal path.
Wow. See, and maybe that's where our difference is, because, and I you'll hear me say this all the time, and I really believe it. I recognize that these are things that I'm working on in my own self, and maybe you share them. I don't know. Maybe you don't. But I love that perspective, because for me, it seems like there's this insatiable hunger, and I do believe it was passed down from my mom, of that needing to be seen and heard. You know, like there's that like validation. And, you know, and I wish I could just like magically make it not exist, because I really didn't like it when it showed up in my mom. You know, as we were growing up as kids, she was always like, nobody loves me, or nobody reads my stuff. And, you know, I'd be like, oh my God, you know, we're all busy, Mom. It's not that we don't love you. Yeah. It's like, you know, and I'm recognizing that now. I've inherited that pattern, you know, and that's, you know, like I'm in a self-help course right now through the Gene Keys, and that's GENEKEYES if you want to look that up. And it's about healing at a DNA level. And we did these self-assessments, and I had the lowest score in creativity, which was just like, what? I've always thought of myself as a super creative being. But as I've been digging into the shadow aspect of why was this number so low, you know, what's going on, you know, there is this part of me who just doesn't feel like anybody just like gives a crap about, you know, like I want the people that I'm closest to and that I love, that love me, to be like, wow, that is so cool. I mean, they don't have to like, but just to say, they, you know, like read the article and go like, wow, that was interesting. You know, I'm not sure that's my cup of tea, but wanting that, to share that, like, you know, and not just get praise, but also to get, you know, critique or feedback. Like, hey, what'd you think? You think it's, you know, but then I'm like talking to myself going like, well, everybody's got their own creative stuff, and everybody's all in their life, and everybody is, you know, I mean, there's so much information and stuff out there. There's millions of bits of music and poetry and stories, and, you know, and so I have these talks to myself. But the last thing I want to say about this is where I think some of it's coming through the lineage, but I also think another part of it's coming from when I went through my cancer ordeal with chemo and radiation. You know, you hear me talk about this, where I almost died. And something happened to me after that experience. It's like going through chemo and radiation, it kind of like blows the atoms of your body apart. It blows you apart. And it's hard to figure out who you are. And you understand, like for me, I was hanging in that sphere of death for years and months. And I'll be really honest, there was probably about a year where I just couldn't get behind life. I felt like I'd made the wrong choice. I wish I hadn't have done chemo and radiation. I wish I had just let myself die with dignity, because it's kind of like the gig was up. I understood at such a small, minute, real way that this life is not permanent and I could die any second. And so it kind of was like, well, why the fuck should I create anything? I'm going to die any moment, or tomorrow, or the cancer is going to come back. Or it really took me a long time to move away from that, you know.
And I can relate to that a little bit. And I think a lot of people, you know, the end of the world, the end of your life, I think a lot of people, and myself included for a while, you know, looked at the world in a very pessimistic way. And it's easy to kind of look at the world as like, it's all fucked.
Yeah.
The sky is falling. It's all going to end. And the problem I found with that perspective is that if you're constantly worried about the end and the inevitable conclusion and the fact that it's not going to matter anyways, you effectively disempower yourself and no longer have any drive to make meaningful, beautiful change and to steer your own life and world in a way that actually is that matters to you.
Yeah.
So I had to let that perspective go myself, just because it wasn't doing me any good. And I see a lot of people, even in our own family, you know, your brother, for example, he's just
older brother.
People get stuck in this this mindset of the world's going to end. Therefore, what's the point? Therefore, I'm just I ain't going to do anything.
That's a really great point. And I think that I brought that experience up because I do think that is coloring still my ability to create. Like I'm still working through some of that, you know, piecing together, you know, that it's okay to create just to create. And that's where I want to get back to. And I think this is the first step. This podcast is kind of the first step towards creating for love and for self.
Yeah.
Because most of the stuff I wanted to be seen or heard or witnessed or shared. And that's just who I am, though, too. I really like to collaborate. I'm just more of that kind of person. But I would like to get to the point where I'm painting paintings because it brings me joy. But right now, I'll say where I'm at is I want to go home and I want to take out all those paintings and I just want to burn them.
Do it.
Or send them to Goodwill.
Well,
And just because or take my woodworking. I mean, I'm a little more healed. I'd say a few days ago, I was just really like, screw this. I'm going to burn all my wood products and I'm going to delete all my articles. I mean, that's the extreme pain part, right? Talking. So I've kind of moved through that.
Well, another piece of creativity is that when you pick up a new art, whether it's writing or painting, I don't care who you are or what it is. When you start, you're going to suck. Everything that I'm okay at now, I sucked at for a while. And you start being bad at it. And people are not going to really like it. And then you spend the longest time being mediocre. Yeah. Just being, it's okay. It's a cool piece of art. It's an all right guitar riff, But I think if you, to truly be recognized, you have to kind of push through those layers and become good. At least good. And
that takes commitment.
You can, great. And that's part of the journey. Yeah. I think if you really stick to a craft and also have a bit of an innate ability, although I think most people just through pure perseverance can achieve a mastery of an art. But once you achieve that, the recognition comes on its own. It's almost inevitable. But it takes all of those years of terrible through mediocrity to get to a place where people just are drawn to it for its intrinsic expression of beauty. Yeah.
Well, and then what I'm doing right now is, I'm working through, some of the pain, I think, around creating, because there is stuff tied, I think, to my childhood about that. And looking when I get stuck. And when I get stuck, there's usually 3 things that are happening. There's monotony. Something monotonous is happening. Yeah. It's too complex. Or I'm making inner compromises. I'm compromising somewhere inside of myself, doing something I hate over and over because I think I don't have a choice. And those are the 3 things I've been going to when I get blocked. I'm like, okay, where am I bored? And just doing the same thing, watching TV, like getting to the habits. Where is it too complex, which happens a lot in my writing with technology. I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to do that. That's too hard. I don't know how to do that, right? That shit. I'm not good enough. It's too complex, Or compromising by like, no, I already said I was going to do this other thing, so I can't do this creative thing. I have to stay in this job I hate. I have to stay in this relationship, this friendship that isn't serving me. I get into these places where I start making these inner compromises. Yeah. And then it's like I shut down. And so that's one thing I've been working on. And then the other thing is recognizing that I've been trying to keep like a creative journal every day and write down all the ways that I am being creative. And making a meal. Like I really got stuck with my food, just eating crap processed food. And now I'm really trying to think of my food as art. And I try to make it beautiful and, and I try to bring in, I'm trying to do more edible flowers and, trying to make it like it's a passionate experience. Or when I play with my grandkids or I fix, my decorate something in the room. So I've been trying to like also recognize like, where am I creative and give myself like, go girl. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, from my perspective, you are quite creative. If I'm going to be honest, your driftwood art and your painting art, you're still in mediocrity a little bit. You've done a great job raising my sister. I love that woman absolutely. You raised me. I was a handful.
Thank you for your honesty.
You've created you asked for feedback. You said you wanted critiques.
Take some more classes.
Just if you want to be good, keep doing it. Right? Yeah. That's it. But you've created in some very profound ways in this world already through your relationships.
Thank you, Dane.
I'm not blind to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I also really recognize your creativity. Like when you come over and play the piano, all these things, I mean, it brings me so much joy. And that's where I have to make peace too, because I would love to be more musical. I just don't have the commitment to do it.
Commitment. Yep.
Yeah.
It's a lot of hours.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, I'd rather find other people to do it for me. Dane, Athena, Jim.
Yeah, well.
Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm just gonna so I think for me, what I would take away from today is, you know, keep doing the things I'm doing. The words I'm hearing is like baby steps, and I want to have the courage to just let go of the things I create that, you know, just feel like they're holding space, that, you know, it's okay that
it
isn't the best thing, and
that's part of the process.
Get rid of it.
Yeah, that's part of the process. How many paintings do you think Picasso threw out?
I have no idea.
Probably hundreds.
Yeah. And then I just keep working on this self-love piece, because really I think that, you know, it's an inside job, and I'm going to, you know, you inspire me that, you know, you just want to sit down and just for the pure pleasure of figuring something out, you're going to do it. I'm like, wow, that's a concept. What if I was just doing it just to do it, instead of feeling like it has to be perfect or has to be sellable or somebody has to love it, or, you know, like, why not take some of these other ways I'm creative that I don't feel so intimidated and bad about, and look at these areas with those glasses that feel more successful, you know.
Why not?
Why not?
Well, and one more question I'd pose to you. You mentioned that you feel like people don't see you, don't recognize you. How much of that do you think might be your own doing by not asking people to take a look, like, seriously? You know, like, because you brought up last week, reaching out to people with, like, you know, hey, how's it going? Versus, hey, you know, it'd really be cool if, you know, we spent some time, like, the urgency you bring, like, hey, it'd mean a lot if you read this and really gave me some feedback, because I'm looking for some.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I mean, I have done that to some friends, and they ended up never reading it ever.
Well, that sucks.
You know, so I mean, I'm very clear. There's some rejection pieces here that I'm working out, you know, but then there are other times where I'm sure if I was like, hey, it's really important for me to get some feedback on this, would you guys just read it and let me know what you think? And if you can't, let me know, because there's also that thing, and I don't know if you experience this, but you don't want to bother people. You don't want to put them out.
Yeah, I get it.
It's like, you know, like, you know, so there's that thing too, because I feel like people are already, like I said, I have a very creative community, and I feel like everybody's in their own creative space. So sometimes I feel like imposing when you're asking somebody to look at your creative stuff. But this sparks something else, which I have been, so in my life, it seems like if ever I want something, I've always had to create it myself. So I wanted a women's networking group. So my friend Katie and I created a group called Sassy Girl Friday, where women would come and have a cocktail and share their business. And it was super fun because it didn't exist out there. And I will say that that's one thing that has been rolling around in my head, is finding a venue or something and start to have like community sharing, where I open up and facilitate a space where people can start coming and sharing their art, be it music, be it a chapter from your book, be it anything, just so that people have a space to come and be seen and heard.
Yeah.
Because maybe it is just a me thing, but I don't think so. I think there's other people that want to connect with what they're creating too. So
I think every human wants and needs to connect.
Yeah. And to feel like you're seen in that. But before we get off this, because I feel like we've been talking about me a lot, so how do you feel like, you know, if any of this connects to like your creativity in your business, you know, or your creativity in, you know, how does any of this, if, you know, affect you in your life?
I mean, my life is my creation. It's my decisions that I make. And, you know, the ability to build a business is very much an artistic endeavor. It takes finding and learning about various industries and ways that, you know, our society operates, and then within those boundaries, building something that is viable on its own 2 feet eventually. And that very much is the same sort of creative process, the same sort of sucking at something for a long time and then hopefully improving and doing a better job each time you reiterate, each time you replay that chord progression, each time you throw away your canvas and try the painting again.
Yeah.
So it's very similar. I mean, the base of the business was actually a physical invention, which was very much creativity. That was creation of a physical object out of nothing. And I remember it's kind of cool to invent something. It's kind of like magic, because here you are in a world, and then out of nowhere you like connect with the universe in a way that sparks an idea, and all of a sudden you can see the world in a completely different way. And it's now your mission to be able to implement this change and to improve, hopefully, in the world in some sort of progression. So, yeah, I agree. And you opened this whole thing with saying, creativity is really your whole life, and I agree with that. And then you have these hobbies, which are the arts, which are like the more normal way of looking at what creativity is. But yeah, your entire life is a tapestry. I like to say, something. I like to say, your life is your story. So write the story you want to tell.
I love it. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have so much more I could say about this, but I think I'm gonna just
hang up the hat for now.
Yeah, it's I really appreciate it because it's really given me a lot to think about. And I mean, I do have one quick question for you though. So do you ever feel like, and then we'll hang up the hat. Do you ever get stuck though and like, this isn't good enough, or I don't like this, or I don't feel like being creative right now?
Yeah, I'm stuck right now. I haven't played guitar in probably 3 months. I haven't done anything in my business in probably 1 month. It's just expansion and then contraction. It's just the pattern of growth. You can see it in trees every year. They expand in the summer and then they got to take a break. So I kind of look at it that way. It keeps me from beating myself up too much about being lazy about it or whatever.
Yeah.
I just think of it as part of the natural process. And time will tell.
I agree.
If I can actually turn my creations into something viable and meaningful, I'll know I was right. And if I can't, I'll know I was lazy.
Or maybe it's a timing issue.
Yeah,
or
there's
maybe it's I don't know. I don't really believe in the word lazy. I don't.
It's something that you can indulge in if you choose.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you're being lazy and you do it anyways.
Yeah, I have to think about that one. Huh. Yeah. Well, that's fascinating. Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
It's a good topic.
Yeah, and I just want to reiterate. So what I'm going to go back to is that just remembering that everything is, rather than thinking about life as creative moments, I want to go back to that creation is the backbone of my life, and to be in that energy in every moment, like you said, that statement you made. Or what do you want to create?
Did I make a statement?
Yeah, you said something I already forgot. I got a lot going on in my head.
I know.
I got a lot going on in my head. We'll replay and then I'll listen to it.
All right.
Anyway.
Take a quick intermission and switch topics?
Yeah, let's take a quick intermission.
All right.
Sounds good.
All right.
I grew up with these chairs. 1970s. Anyway, welcome back, everybody.
Wasn't that long, I don't think. So, topic 2.
What is your question? I'm so curious.
I wanted to talk about a little bit, what is power?
Oof.
We live in a hierarchical society where a lot of people are driven, motivated by this quest for power. What does that mean? Why is it important? Because, it is kind of a currency. It is kind of something that, why is it desirable?
Well, what is power? Power, right?
Exactly.
Power feels, to me, when I say power, empowered, you feel strong, you feel confident, or you feel like, I always think of like you're at the top of the rung as opposed to the bottom. But power is kind of like this stability and this ability and this, it's like a really stable place to stand and to claim space, right?
Yeah.
And so, who doesn't want that?
It's also an engine to get work done.
It's an engine.
And if you are a creative, let's say, and you have more power, you're able to actually implement your vision to a wider degree.
Right.
If you have a strong base and the empowerment via the tools and resources, the people around you, your own ability to stay motivated, I think that is the drive that allows you to change the world.
Yeah, because you could just take that word. It could be the power in, and how you communicate and how you feel about yourself. The power in who do you know. The power in how much money, right? There's like all these different. You can take the pie of life and add power, right? And
you literally plug something in to make it run.
Right.
You need that
power.
Yep.
Right. And so I think that for a long, long time, though, humanity we've had this unhealthy dance with power. We keep creating power over. We think that's the way to survive. It's like, if you want to win, if you want to live, if you want to survive, then you got to have the most power and you got to be on the top. Because if you're not, then you're powerless. And the powerless, you get stomped on, you get put into slavery, you get,
Yeah.
So we all want it because what we've been taught is the person who has the most power wins.
Nobody wants to be the runt of the litter, I guess.
Yeah.
And so why is it important to look at this? Why did I bring this up? I think too many times, too many of us disempower ourselves.
Oh, yes.
We don't believe in ourselves. We don't believe in our own ability. A lot of people I've talked to don't even believe in such thing as free will. It's all destined anyways. So, I don't have any say. A lot of people use like an external story. Religion's one of my favorite. It's like, I don't need to worry about it because, my good old pal Jesus, he's going to come fix everything. So I don't need to fix anything. Whatever your idol is, whatever your false idol is, if it's, the president, he's gonna make everything good, so I don't need to worry about it. We disempower ourselves. We shed our own responsibility and put it in the hands of somebody else, which through my too many years of life so far, I've realized nobody else is going to make the changes that we need to make. Nobody else who's put themselves in a position to actually influence the world, the public opinion in a way, they're not using that in a way to create your vision,
right,
to benefit your family, to bring about the change that you want to see. So from that perspective, it's important that we understand what power is,
right,
and how to wield it, and why it's not just a selfish ambition to want to claim some of that.
Well, and I think power also is like energy. It's always there. So just because you don't pick it up, for whatever reason, fear, you don't want the power, you don't want to look like you're selfish, or you're going to be a tyrant, or whatever the reason is, someone else is going to pick up the power.
Yeah.
It's there. And so I think that's part of the birthright, is learning to pick up your own power. Don't give it away, and don't, be afraid of it, but then cultivate how to use it too. Like, don't become part of the negative, toxic machine. Don't buy into the I have to have more power over people so they don't hurt me, or, that's the old paradigm. I think the new paradigm, and this is something that I try to practice every day of my life and be conscious of, is power to, power with, but, it's a long old story, even in business, collaborating, with trying to do workshops with people. There was always this power struggle.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or you're taking more money, or you're taking, there's this thing in us that we always feel like we're not going to have enough, or, and I remember when I was teaching feng shui classes, and they were like, well, aren't you, because I was teaching other people to become practitioners, feng shui practitioners, like, well, aren't you, you're giving your power away, like you're teaching all these people to do what you did, like, aren't you afraid? And I'm like, no, I'm not, because not everybody's going to be me, and not everybody's going to like me, and not everybody's going to like my style. So we need a lot of different people out there doing the same kinds of things in different ways, healing our planet. And to me, that's kind of like the foundation of this positive power, is knowing that there is enough and not being afraid of being hurt or used, or I don't know, it's like starting to trust.
Teach others your craft. You don't want to fish for everybody. Have them go fish for themselves.
Exactly. Yeah. And so sharing the power, right? And I think that's kind of like, Jim and I talk about this all the time, is like we talk about all the time is how to take the power and share it collectively and collaboratively. And I think not making choices just for what's good for me.
I think that amplifies if you're effectively able to have multiple healthy people come together and want to share and build together, that's what they call synergy, right? That's like where the sum of the pieces is greater than the individuals. So you come together with a partner, and all of a sudden you can output 3 times the work because you guys support each other.
And there's going to be conflict.
Imagine if we could build a society built on that.
Oh my God. I don't know. It's hard to think about. It's hard to comprehend, because we're so used to this power over, power under. It's
true. And really all it is just making a decision, making a decision after another decision, just, controlling your own life.
I think that's the first step, is you start small. You start with yourself.
Yeah.
I'm having to go back into some medical tests and whatnot. And it's interesting, because I start going back into this medical world, and there's this impulse to give my power away. And they know, and they're telling me,
the authority. Yeah.
And I'm like, they are imperatively important, and they do know a lot, but it's a challenge for me to keep my power and not just fall into that, okay, whatever you say, because they wanted to give me, I hurt my ankle, I was in the ER, and they wanted to give me some pain medicine. And I said, I don't want any of the Vicodin and all that crap. And I was like, I just want aspirin. Oh, no, it's too painful. You need something. And I felt myself being pushed into taking Dilaudid, and I was like, no, I don't want to take, and it took a lot to take that power back, be responsible of myself. And like, no, I don't want, yes, it hurts, but trust me, I can deal with this pain. It'll go away. But putting those chemicals back in my body, that's going to take me a week or a month to flush out, just because I've had so much in my system. It really F's me up. So again, it's like where, finding those places, to claim that responsibility and that power for who I am. And sometimes it's in relationships.
Yeah, a lot of times. Yeah.
Right? Of people who are trying to bully, and family members. I'm speaking of a particular family member, and it was like finally taking that, instead of being the victim, like, oh, always being upset. And now what has he said? Now what has he done? Oh, now he's going to do this. Oh, now he's doing that. And then just being like, like feeling like a victim. It was like,
that disempowers. The victim mindset completely disempowers you. You're no longer able to make your own decisions because this other force. I've thought about it a bit, and it's like, it's one of the main problems with the whole like rise of the word addiction in general. Yeah. Is that by being an addict, you're no longer in control. Yeah. If I don't have control, then I guess I just have to keep taking it, because I don't have the power to make a decision. Mm-hmm. And, I get that in maybe some extreme situations, people really feel that way. Yeah. And their decision making is so atrophied and so weak that like effectively they are powerless. Yeah. But it also means that you're never going to be able to even try to begin to make that decision on your own. And that's something that we have to do. That's something we have to get good at if we're going to live in a meaningful way. Yeah.
And I mean, I'll use myself as an example with that, because I really had to claim my power when it came to my health. because it would have been really easy for me to give up after the whole cancer ordeal, or to be an eternal victim. Oh, I had cancer, and I was like, no, I am going to claim my life, and I'm going to learn how to live, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to heal. And I keep doing that. So that's, finding those ways that, you claim that power. And then be mindful, be mindful of, like, are you trying to have power over someone else?
Power over versus power
under.
With.
Where you want power with.
Yeah.
Where can you share the power? And I don't feel like as humanity we're equipped or taught to do that. Nobody knows how to deal with conflict. And that's where the problem is. It's either you're on top or you're under. But if you come together and you try to work out that conflict, people are like, it's challenging.
It's unpracticed.
It's uncomfortable, Really, you've heard me talk in the podcast a lot about this, but I feel like as a society, we're very immature. I feel like there's just so much immaturity. Like, I look at the dynamics in our government and structures, and I feel like oftentimes you're looking at toddlers or adolescents.
Yeah.
And the way that they're behaving.
Throw temper tantrums. It's not uncommon.
Right. Mine. No, mine. My toy, my bill, and instead of just listening, like, it's okay to listen. It's okay to listen, and it's okay to talk. And trust me, I'm practicing this in my own life. I'm not just.
Yeah, we all are.
I mean, and I feel like there's always more to go, but I do feel like I am evolving, and I do see shifts. Like, I'm not afraid of conflict anymore. I'm just not. So, yeah. And I will say also, this is beautiful because I could also bring this power into the creativity, right? Because here I'm having this thing where I'm like, like nobody wants to see my stuff or whatever I'm saying. It's like, I have the power to keep uncovering those places and find the joy, figure out what's going on inside of me that's creating a block to feeling joyful and relevant. Because really it has nothing to do with anybody else. This is something that's broken in me, or I don't even want to say broken. It's something that's wanting to be addressed. There's something that, for whatever reason, I don't feel valuable in what I'm doing. And that, the only person that can heal that is me. And that's what I'm going to take the power on and keep looking and at myself under the magnifying glass. It's like, how can I find joy and play and be wild in my creativity?
See, because that's something interesting too. We all have power, but if we don't have a purpose or a motivator to take it, that's just it just creates responsibility with no reward. Yeah. So you have to find some way to derive joy out of it, or derive purpose out of it. Providing for your family, or bettering your community in some way. You have to have a reason to want to participate in the game. That's kind of, I don't really have an answer to that. You need purpose, and you need joy.
Yeah. I'm working on that right now. I'm really working on that too, because I'm really, really good at taking care of other people. Are you happy? What do you need? Let me do this for you. But I haven't been very good at figuring out that for myself. And that's been a surprise too. And so I've been trying to figure out, like, well, what do I enjoy? What brings me, because that's part of the power too, is really knowing, I think claiming the power, we have to know who we are. It means we have to consciously wake up. Who am I?
And what do I want to accomplish?
What do I like?
Yeah.
What's
important to me? What's valuable to me? Yeah. These are questions that are important.
I'm kind of surprised. I don't have answers to a lot of that. I don't know. I know how to make you happy. But one of the things, so I've been practicing lately, like going with you in the morning and getting this cup of coffee. That is joyful for me.
Pretty nice.
I would say this podcast is probably one of the things that brings me a lot of joy. Talking. sharing,
Yeah.
connecting.
Yeah.
It really brings a lot of joy. So I'm starting to like pay attention, you know, like
follow that compass.
right. And
Yep.
like starting to be aware of like, well, what does feel good? What do I like? Jim and I last weekend went out to the gorge and went wine tasting and went for a tiny walk because my ankles hurt and did a hot spring soak. Oh my God, I loved that whole day. That brought me joy, right? So I'm starting to be like, okay, I like outdoors. You know, I like things that are like engaging, and we met some wonderful people. I like that. So anyway, I think that's part of the power piece. In order to take the power, we have to start recognizing who we are. And I think that
point.
if I look out into the world, I feel like there's a lot of really lost people.
Lost souls. For
who
sure.
don't know who they are, but are told, oh, well, if you're famous, then you know who you are. If
Or if
people
you're
are
rich.
following on Facebook, you know who you know, if you're getting that outward,
Yep, that gratification. Yep.
which I was talking about that myself.
Yeah, people are seeking fame, people are seeking fortune, people are seeking power over others, as if those will answer those questions and give them satisfaction. And maybe in some rare cases of sociopathy, it works.
Or
But
short term is what I have found.
from what I understand about looking at myself, it doesn't really fill the void that you're looking for.
No. And wherever you go, there you are, right? So you go there, you get all this fame, and then it fades, and then you're still there, whatever it is. And I learned that lesson on the El Camino, because here I was walking, and please cut me off if we're getting to time, but here I was on the El Camino walking and like out in the foreign country, and it was beautiful, and meeting new people and staying in a new place and, you know, living the dream. And there were days when I was just miserable. I mean, it hurt. It was hard. Don't get me wrong. But it was just like that same stuff that I felt sitting in Portland dealing with my life was there on the trail in this magical, beautiful countryside. And I'm like, what? So I was like, okay, that stuff isn't going to change by anything external, you know,
Yeah.
and I think that's power, recognizing who you are and having the courage to change.
So I guess to combine both these topics, it really
Yeah.
comes down to the fact that we are creators.
Yes.
We create our life. We create the world around us. We
Yep.
even partake in art sometimes.
Yeah.
And the only way to get good at that is to empower yourself
Yeah.
and to really understand what direction you're trying to go in, what value you're trying to achieve, and how you can create that in your own life.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think what I want to take away, I mean, there's just so many great things in here, but I really want to start thinking about, I want to start asking myself, where am I not picking up my power? And why?
Why is a good question. Why is always a good question in any topic.
Why? Because I think that I think in my health right now and my exercise, I'm not picking up my power. And I want to investigate that. Why? Why am I not doing that? And I think in my creativity, I'm not picking up my power. Why? And I want to start investigating that and then continue to do the things that I talked about. But I really love it. Like, I like how the synchronicity of our topics, even if we don't know, there's always a way that they come together.
We are all capable of so much.
Yep.
If we just keep doing it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, that feels pretty complete to me.
I'm happy with it.
Yeah.
My coffee just ran out, so I
Okay.
think that's a sign.
I have a little bit. Well, thank you for joining us, and I hope these topics inspire you in some way and help you ask some new questions in new ways. And as always, be well.
It's been a pleasure. We'll see you down the road.
Yep. Thank you.